You have your mother's eyes. You have your father's nose. We accept this as a fact of growing up. But what decides who you become? The instructions for those traits are hidden inside every single cell of your body. They are written in a molecule so small, it can't be seen with the naked eye, yet it holds the blueprint for every living thing on Earth. For thousands of years, humans bred crops and livestock, but nobody actually understood how this data transfer worked. The mechanics of heredity were a complete blank. Even Charles Darwin, who mapped out the origin of species, couldn't figure out the actual biological mechanism passing traits from one generation to the next. Until we identified the specific physical rules of inheritance, the true nature of our own biological identity remained a mystery. The breakthrough didn't come from a prestigious university or high-tech laboratory. It happened in the quiet isolation of a Czech monastery during the 1860s. An Augustinian monk named Gregor Mendel spent his days tending to a garden, quietly obsessing over the mathematical rules of life. By rigorously tracking the subtle variations in simple pea plants, he exposed a biological system that would form the bedrock of modern genetics. Over 8 years, Mendel meticulously cross-pollinated over 10,000 pea plants. Instead of looking at the whole plant, he isolated very specific characteristics, tracking traits like plant height, seed shape, and flower color. When he crossed tall and short plants, the result was a complete surprise. Offspring were entirely tall. The short trait seemed to have vanished. But when those offspring reproduced, the short trait reappeared in an exact ratio of 3 tall plants to 1 short. Mendel established the law of dominance, proving that inherited traits are distinct packets of data rather than a blended liquid. In this system, one trait physically overpowers and masks the other. He also discovered the law of segregation. This means that these packets of genetic data exist in pairs. They separate during reproduction, so an offspring receives exactly 1/2 of its instructions from each parent. Mendel's math was perfect, but it was purely theoretical. It took until the early 1900s for scientists to look through microscopes and finally see the actual biology at work. 2 scientists, Walter Sutton and Theodore Boveri, were observing cellular division when they identified distinct thread-like physical structures inside the nucleus. They watched these structures line up, split apart, and distribute into new cells, exactly the way Mendel predicted his mathematical factors would. This united the math with the biology into the chromosomal theory of inheritance. We finally had hard proof that these physical objects, chromosomes, are the definitive carriers of generational data. That is why you look like both of your parents. Every chromosome you possess was handed down to you in a perfect 50-50 split from your mother and your father. For over a century, we spent our time reading and mapping this genetic code. Now, we are actively editing it. Technologies like CRISPR act as molecular scissors. They work like a word processor, altering highly specific sequences of DNA with incredible precision. In agriculture, this translates to engineering crops that withstand extreme weather, securing the food supply for billions of people. In medicine, this technology allows for the rapid development of targeted vaccines and opens a viable pathway toward curing genetic diseases. When the pioneers of gene editing were awarded the Nobel Prize, it formalized a critical threshold. We had taken definitive control of our own biological software. Our current ability to manipulate global biology began with a monk carefully counting wrinkled peas in an isolated garden. These subtle genetic variations are the ultimate engine of survival, allowing life to adapt to a constantly shifting planet. We spent thousands of years trying to understand the code of life. Now that we hold the power to rewrite it, our greatest challenge is deciding what to do with the pen.